Uh, Good evening, everyone. Today we have this Google Hangout session to discuss about the local body tax, which is of late creating so much of controversy in Maharashtra. So we decided to have this Hangout session with two experts who are well versed with the subject. So the Hangout session, close to 45 minutes to 1 hour, will be discussing entirely on this problem of local body tax. So since our viewers will not be experts who will be understanding the tax issues, we have decided to have it from the basics. So let me introduce two panelists who will be throughout the session participating and giving their expert opinion on the local body tax. So there are two people. One is Mr. Nikhil Patankar. Nikhil Patankar is a tax attorney. He has completed LLB from ILS Law College, Pune, and he is a member of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India from the year 2010. He is also a committee member of Drafting and Accounting Standard on Local Bodies, and he is also practicing on various tax matters. He is giving advisory services for the domestic and also international taxation matters, also NRA taxation, tax planning, and transfer pricing issues. I welcome you, Nikhil, to participate in our Hangout session. The second participant is Mr. Sarang Gudante. Sarang is a partner of this chartered accounting firm called Gudante and Partners, which is located in Pune. He is also a fellow member of Chartered Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. Apart from being a member of Chartered Accountant Institute of India, he is also handling various issues regarding to local body taxes under various forums, including the litigation matters in the court. And he is also giving consultancy to various big corporates with regards to local body taxation. And of late, he has been handling 3 4 important cases with regards to local body tax. So we'll start the session right away. I'd like to invite Nikhil to answer this question. Nikhil, we are all not sure about what is local body tax. So could you please give a genesis about what is local body tax in general for a common man to understand? Nikhil, can you hear me? Nikhil, can you listen to me? I think there is some problem with the connection.
Okay, first of all,
I'm sorry, I think we have lost the line. He'll be back in 2 minutes. Nikhil, are you back? Nikhil, yeah. You can continue answer.
first of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me here, and I think it's an innovative idea to connect with the youth. The answer to your question is about the introduction of LBT is has a two perspectives. One is that of a legal, and another is that of a financial. I mean, I'll explain it in one by one. To begin with, LBT is nothing but an abbreviation of local body tax, which is a common tax in a common man's word. It is a tax on entry of goods within the municipal corporation limits, and it has been introduced in state of Maharashtra to replace the octroi system, which was in existence since many years. Now, the legal perspective is that it has been imposed on the basis of entry number 52 in the state list of Schedule 7 of the Constitution of India, which says that the taxes on entry of goods into the local area for the consumption, use, and sale therein. Now, these taxes has to be paid by the traders to the civic bodies as per the rules and regulations of a particular state. Now, in Maharashtra concern, LBT is governed by the Maharashtra Municipal Corporation Act of 1949 and Bombay Provincial Municipal Corporation Local Body Tax Rules 2010. Now, with the financial perspective of it, is that an LBT forms an essential part of revenue for these municipal corporations, and the planned expenditure of these municipal corporations is funded from this revenue. And I mean, all are aware that civic bodies are to be entrusted to provide the basic necessities to the citizens of in the city, like roads, water, transportation facilities, and infrastructural facilities. Now, the to manage all these funds, manage all this expenditure, the major source is to fund these activities through the collections made from LBT or earlier an octroi system. Now, as we are discussing about the Maharashtra state, an LBT local body tax has been introduced, as I stated earlier, to replace the octroi system, and now which has its the octroi system has its roots originated since the ancient Roman times. Now, many of us know that while traveling or while coming into the city or going out, many of us see the trucks or the lorry or the goods carrier standing at the octroi check post to declare the goods which they are carrying, and what they have to do is they have to uh, declare the goods and pay the octroi according to the value, which is determined again by the authorities in the octroi post. Now, the major drawback in that system was that the chargeability of the octroi was entirely at the discretion of the authorities, and which has resulted into the corruption and as well as the harassment of the traders because of the whims and fancies of the authorities at that octroi post. Now, hence the Maharashtra government in March 2013, I'm sorry, has announced that the octroi shall be cancelled and LBT would be levied in the municipal corporations, namely Mumbai, Thane, Pune, Nagpur, and Pimpri Chinchwad. I think that's for the introduction of an LBT.
So, if I am
To begin with.
understanding this correctly,
Yes,
any goods which comes from outside the corporation limit into the corporation should be levied tax according to local body tax.
right, exactly.
So, if this is to be taken into account, is there
Mhm.
some limit or every goods? For example, there are so many traders, right, from Panwala to biscuits to everything they are importing from other cities, like for even
Right,
Mumbai. So, do
right.
you mean to say if a Panwala has to bring some pan from Mumbai to Pune, once he enters the Pune corporation limit, he has to pay the tax? Is that what you're telling?
So typically, if you see the legislature as such, there are two important definitions which are mentioned there. I mean, I'm not going too much technical here, but what I want to explain is that the Act has defined two definitions, which is an importer and a dealer. Now, a dealer is a person who is dealing in the goods, who is the actual trader. An importer is a person who actually imports the goods. So any person can be an importer. Importer here, I mean, to bring goods from the city limit. I mean, to bring the goods inside the city limit. That is an importer. Now, a dealer is a trader And if you are already registered under the Maharashtra VAT system, that is MVAT, you are deemed to be the dealer for the LBT things as well. Now, as you mentioned about the limits or the threshold limit, right now there is a threshold limit of turnover of purchases, which is rupees 1 lakh as of today. And I don't know, maybe while we are speaking the rule might change because it has changed since last so many months. So this 1 lakh, up to 1 lakh it is exempt. I mean, you are not covered under the LBT regime. And secondly, what they have come up with a rule that up to 10 lakhs, I mean, from 1 lakh to 10 lakh, there is a fixed amount of LBT for the small traders, and they don't have to follow the compliances which is which is coming with this LBT, like filing of your returns and filing of maintenance of records and everything. So there are basically turnover limits, and even for these small shops like panwalas, as you mentioned,
Hmm.
if they are covering under this turnover limits, they have to pay a fixed amount of LBT, which is as per the slab rate.
So basically, anybody who imports any goods more than a lakh rupee has to pay this LBT.
Right, right, exactly.
So, what if example?
Mhm.
So now we have this all online delivery systems through various websites like Flipkart, Myntra, and all those websites. So in case if I am a purchaser, if I am
Mhm.
purchasing goods more than a lakh in a year,
Mhm.
so do I come under this ambit of local body tax and will I be supposed to pay some tax?
That's a very interesting question, and I'm sure many of our listeners are eager to know the answer for this. But technically, I mean, if you deal with this online shopping like Flipkart or Snapdeal, I'm sure, not judging anyone, but I'm sure 90% of them don't check the terms and conditions while buying the product. I mean, if you apply law strictly, yes, anybody who is importing the goods above rupees 1 lakh is covered under this LBT regime. Now, for the purpose of growing their business, or rather, it should not affect their business, all these online shopping, the portals, what they have done is they are paying LBT or octroi on behalf of customers. So there is one clause in the terms and conditions which I found for the Snapdeal, which says that a Snapdeal will not be I mean that will be collecting the octroi and LBT on behalf of the customer, and customer is not required to pay that. But again, if we go to the threshold limits, as it is coming in between 1 to 10 lakh, there is a fixed amount. So I think there will not be a problem for chargeability. I mean, chargeability with respect to a normal individual. As if, I mean, if you are buying some products even more than 1 lakh, the amount which will be coming to you will have a fixed amount of tax. Amount can be determined. That's what I just want to say.
Okay, so it seems very interesting, and if it is applied strictly, then most of the population might be covered
Right.
under this LBT. Okay, so we'll go to the next question. I think Mr. Sarang could answer this question. Sarang, this LBT is applicable throughout Maharashtra. Is it like that?
No, actually, LBT is not applicable throughout Maharashtra. It is basically when LBT is introduced, it is the replacement to the octroi. So when
Okay.
at that time octroi was earlier, it was all the specifically Nagarpalika and corporations. But eventually, Nagarpalikas are removed, and now octroi are applicable only for the municipal corporation. Out of that, some were opted for, or rather, in some municipal corporations, their LBT was made applicable. Initially, that was in Nanded, Aurangabad, Kolhapur, Jalgaon. In 2013, precisely from 1st April 2013, it was introduced in Pune, Pimpri Chinchwad, Thane, New Mumbai, Nagpur, etc. So it is specifically applicable in some corporation, not in all. Now in Mumbai, it is initially it was deferred, and now it almost completely deferred.
Okay. So, if my understanding is correct, LBT is implemented by the local corporations and it is not made effective throughout the state of Maharashtra. There are some places where now LBT is effective and there are some places where it is not effective.
Right,
Am I correct?
right, absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. Now, there is another question which comes to my mind, which I was always thinking whenever I saw these news reports. I have never heard about LBT problems or agitations or even the levying of LBT tax in other states. So is it something which is exclusively levied only in the state of Maharashtra or it is levied elsewhere in the country?
No, actually, the as you are aware that LBT is the nothing but the replacement to the octroi. Basically, we were as already discussed by Nikhil, that was the LBT is already come from the old Bombay province, which was into two parts. Then subsequently parted in two parts. One is Gujarat and another is in Maharashtra. That's why only it is applicable. Gujarat is already removed and it is only applicable in Maharashtra, and by technicality and legality is already Nikhil has explained. So it is only applicable now in Maharashtra.
So whether it is previous octroi or it is LBT, this tax is applicable only in Maharashtra, not in
Right,
any other state.
right now.
Okay, that seems quite amusing to me. Okay, now so Sarang, I saw your profile, and if I am to understand correctly, you are dealing with various cases presently with regards to LBT. So
Yeah,
could you
right.
please share your opinion on whether the previous octroi system was better or the present LBT system is better? Which is the best or which is practically feasible according to your experience?
See, initially Octroi was the transaction based system. That means you have to pay when the any truck is coming from an outside the corporation limit, and which is going to enter in the corporation limit. That time on a NACA, you have to pay the octroi. At the moment you pay the octroi on a NACA, then no one is going to question you. Now the system is something like that. It is based on the accounts. You have to prepare fully the accounts of that month. You have to make a
Uh, I'm sorry, I think we lost the line. We'll be connecting in 2 minutes.
LBT is a better option than octroi with or by all the sides.
Okay, so in your view, LBT is better than the previous octroi.
Yeah.
Okay. So I am not sure if our audience are still very clear about the octroi or the LBT, the basic concepts. Nikhil, could you please
Yes.
explain us in detail again one more time what is octroi and why was it replaced by LBT at present by the Maharashtrian government?
See, basically, octroi, if you, as I already mentioned, it has its roots originated from Roman times.
Okay,
Technically, it's an old act. I mean, but the basic logic for octroi or applicability of octroi is that whenever you are crossing the goods from within the city limits, if you are bringing goods to one particular city, then you have to pay some amount as a tax while entering that city. Now, while I mean the process, the functioning of octroi was like that. When you are entering, you must have seen while coming to any of the city that there are octroi posts outside the city limits. where a goods carrier will stop. He has to disclose that he is carrying this material with him and the value of that material. And then the officer sitting in that naka, that checkpost, will decide whether he has to pay X amount of octroi or Y amount of octroi. So that was entirely at the discretion of the person who is sitting at the checkpost. Now, with this, there were problems. There were multifold problems. Like there was an increase in corruption, because if it is at the discretion of that officers, there is bound to have corruption in that particular system. Secondly, it even amounted to the harassment of traders. Like if uh, if a trader is honest and he is disclosing everything, still a person or a in charge of that octroi post may harass him for bribe or for any other reasons. So, but entire authority to move the goods was within the hands of those uh, inspectors, I would say. But I mean, there were many complaints with respect to that, and even that I think trade unions has already requested state government to remove octroi since many years. The request is still pending with the government because of all these issues, and there is no free flow of goods within the city. Imagine a person who is harassing you for every goods container coming into their city. It is an harassment for a day-to-day trader. So that was these are certain loopholes in that octroi system. Now with the LBT, what has done is that it has switched to the account-based taxation, which means that when you are importing the goods, you don't have to stop at the octroi post and disclose everything. What you have to do is you have to file a return in a prescribed form, which will disclose everything about your goods along with the invoices and every references, and which will give you an idea that how much imports were made during the particular month or the particular period, and you have to pay LBT on that basis. So typically, it has gone from the day-to-day harassment of traders. I mean, I'm using these harsh words, but harassment of the traders to the regularized system of filing of returns and paying tax at the regular interval.
Okay, so that means once the LBT is into force, even the small traders who are doing minimal business will be subject to so many legal procedures now, like filing, auditing, and all those things.
I have mentioned it earlier. I mean, there are many technical issues in that, which I think we are not discussing right now, because it's very difficult to understand even for us also. So basically, if it is more than 10 lakhs,
Okay,
there are all the I mean regulations you have to follow, like filing of return, disclosing, I mean, all other things. But if it is below 10 lakhs, as I mentioned earlier, there is a scheme which corporation has introduced, which says that you have to pay a fixed amount of LPT.
okay. So in order to summarize to our viewers, so what Nikhil has told now is octroi was previously prevalent in the state of Maharashtra, which breeded corruption through the octroi officers who were in the check post outside the corporation limits. So, in order to decrease the corruption, the new system has been brought in through which you will not be cornered in the check post, but you will have to file a proper returns after your goods are imported into the corporation limit. Thank you, Nikhil, for that answer. Sarang, if this system sounds good because, as Nikhil said, people will not be pushed into so much of harassment in the checkposts and all those things, and also considerable chance of reduction of corruption is also, at least to my understanding, that was the motive of this thing. If this is the better system compared to the octroi one as opined by Nikhil, why were there so many protests in Maharashtra which we were seeing in news every day? We could see literally everyday traders protesting against the government for implementing the local body tax. What was the basis for the protest?
Yeah, there are a couple of views for this. What the stand taken by the traders is one thing is that there will be an additional compliance. Entrepreneurs are already compliant with various tax laws such as income tax, excise, service tax, sales tax, profession tax, etc. And they have will that they will have a burden with additional tax compliance, additional assessment, additional penalties, etc. Another issue is uh, the state government was already committed to the entrepreneur that they will remove octroi when the VAT was introduced, but they were not removed it, and they were only replaced by the LBT. So they were on the impression that the state government is going to remove the octroi or LBT, whatever you say, but which is not done. There was a second issue they were raising. The further issue I can analyze is the corporation is the being a third year of the administrative body. The geographical spread will be very less. The access to the corporation authorities, municipal corporation authorities, will be more easy than anyone else. So entrepreneur, I feel that if the LBT is there, the corporation authorities may directly intervene their business and they may disturb on day-to-day basis. One more thing I can feel is that the rate structure. Rate structure is a such a way that keeping in mind will be very difficult. For an example, if you are importing a gold, it is a 0.1%. From 0.1% to 8%, that is the rate of the LBT, which is very low. Whereas if you compare with any other law, let it be sales tax, there are only few rates. If it is now in a service tax or in excise, they have made a synchronized basis. They have the similar rate system. But various types of goods, various that is one of the problem. And another thing is that when the LBT will get fully operational, there will be and the system will be like it will be based on the your financial statements, analysis, and everything will based on the your balance sheet and your statement. So the your assessment whether you have filed correctly LBT returns, whether you have paid LBT properly or not, it will be assessed by the corporation people. The question, the what my analysis go if the same type of analysis is to be done for sales tax or maybe for excise or custom. They have very trained manpower, like for excise or for income tax, they have the uh, proper people who are IRS for sales tax. There are people who are qualified as an MPSC, etc. But if you see in a corporation, they may not have that much people who are actually an executor of that expertise, experience. So, in the during the course of assessing whether LBT is filed properly, LBT returns are filed properly, LBT is paid properly or not, industry feel that they may it may lead to harassment. These are the couple of views that the people industries against LBT.
Okay. So in order to summarize your answer, the first point why traders were against it is it will increase their complications and compliance requirements additional to that of regular income tax, sales tax and all those things. And the second point which you have enumerated is the corporations are not equipped enough in regards to human resources who can properly calculate this local body tax and levy the tax properly like that of the income tax department. So, Sarang, with your experience, could you please tell the actual problems which happened during the implementation phase of this local body tax. The exact implementation phase, where did it go wrong?
See, basically, the problems we are facing is that it is nowadays operationally where we are dealing, like specifically in the Pune Municipal Corporation and as well as in the Pimpri-Chinchwad Municipal Corporation. There are certain administrative issues that needs to be addressed at each level. For an example, I can tell you one example. There are certain rules are required for the valuation of goods. I'll tell you one example. If you have one company having the multiple branches all over India, and if they're using a particular, say, machinery in one branch for 10 years, and after 10 years, if that machinery is transferred to their branch located in Pune, how much value we should ascertain to pay an LBT is in nowhere it is mentioned. Whereas if you go to any other law, everywhere it is described, it is specifically mentioned that if you are doing the branch transfer, you have to do one, two, three, four things. So by at the implementation stage also we need some clarification, which was already mentioned in the act, that it will be issued, but it was not, they have not been issued. Those were already escalated with the government, but for which we are expecting some clarification in the budget, which has not yet been issued. These are the some small points. Now, like there is, as already Nikhil told, that up to 10 lakhs, this thing is not required. But there was another thing is that there is a composition for, say, for a builder, for which you need the separate types of the returns, so which is not yet been prescribed. These are the procedural issues we feel that which needs to be addressed immediately, due to which we are getting a problem in the implementation.
So basically, the government has implemented this local body tax hurriedly without having any basic infrastructure to implement the same. That is the one line point which you're trying to make.
Yeah, yeah. In addition to that, I'm saying if you introduce any law, the ambiguity remains there. But what you have to do, what the government ideally should do is they should, at the moment they are getting replies or any queries raised by the taxpayer or by the consultant forum, they should immediately address those issues and make the modification, so it will be running on the smooth line.
Okay, fine. Thank you, Sarang. Nikhil, I would like to ask you this question. Last week there was an announcement from the state government
Yes.
which said the local corporation can decide to their prerogative whether they'll be following the previous octroi method or they can follow the new local body taxation issue.
Mhm.
So this kind of feels very ridiculous because the government has been batting for the local body tax for past 2-3 years, right from its implementation in the Nanded, as said by you, in the year 2010. So all these days, the government was very adamant in implementing local body tax. What prompted the government suddenly last week to come and say to the corporations, it's fine, okay, if you want implement octroi, if you want implement local body tax, isn't there a confusion and total mess with regards to the legislation system in Maharashtra? What is the problem actually?
I think, I mean, apart from Mumbai, other municipal corporations, the LBT is already in place. The problem is that is only with the Mumbai Municipal Corporation or Bombay Municipal Corporation. Now, I mean, I won't use those harsh words, but the thing is, the LBT, the governance of this LBT comes under the Urban Development Department of the state government. And I feel, as a common citizen, that they should take a firm stand on this LBT issue, whether they want to impose LBT or they don't want to impose LBT. I think what they have done right now is that it's mainly because everybody is waiting for the elections to announce, and that's what they are playing a safe game here.
Okay.
So,
So from the from the firm stand, it has come to a political decision that
right.
in order to score some brownie points, they are messing up the total infrastructure system.
Right. I mean,
Okay,
mainly
so
it is because of it's a political golden mean, what you can say. Nobody wants to take a firm decision right now, which will affect
so
the.
so if I am to understand properly, they were planning to install a law called local body tax. And once the law has failed immensely, it has failed to take off in the implementation stage. Now they have going back to the octroi place and giving the freedom to the corporations, which is anyways not going to undo the mistakes. Am I correct, Nikhil?
Yes. I mean, they have promised to scrap the octroi system in first place. So going
Okay.
back to octroi system is something, people are in now. They have already reduced, or they are already frustrated with the decisions. But because the even at the time of introduction of VAT, Maharashtra VAT, the finance minister at that time also gave an assurance that it will be replacing the multiple taxes, replacing the multiple tax system in the state. So again, going back to octroi doesn't make any sense right now, because it has to be either a structured form of LBT or no LBT. That's all.
Mm. Are there any informations that any of the corporation is planning to go back to octroi system?
I right now no. I think because the existing system is octroi, so
Okay.
whoever has not adopted LBT, they are still following the
Okay.
octroi.
Okay. So I would like to pose my next question to both the participants. Maybe Nikhil can start with and Sarang can continue. The question is, we are already in the election mode. The state has already entered the election mode. Roughly, there are only 2 months remaining to the election.
Right,
So after election, it will take at least 2 or 3 months for the new government, to whichever party wins, to come and settle and set things straight.
right.
So there is already a big mess as observed by both of you with regards to the local body tax.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think is the way forward? Will it going to be the same mess around for all the next 5 to 6 months, or there can be some solutions, or is the government planning to do something? What is the way forward for the next 5 to 6 months in Maharashtra?
As I already mentioned that it needs a political willingness to take a firm stand. So the firm stand from a government which is missing right now on this issue. Uh, I mean, with this we can, I mean, at least we can say that till the next government forms and it starts its operations in full, I don't think there will be a proper solution for the problem, because the regulations are changing every day, the rules are changing every day, the notifications are coming. They don't have a proper clarity on all the goods. The scope of LBT is also not been properly defined in the actual. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the scope of it is also not properly covered. So with the new government also, uh, it has to be strategically structured. Whether an LBT you want to impose an LBT, or there is an alternative solution for that. So I think right now for next 5 6 months, going to be I mean very much uncertain, and what you can say, it will be a mess, right, like this, because no proper solution we can find right now in this issue if there is no political willingness to do it and continue in that.
Okay. Sarang,
Yeah,
what is your view?
what I can see is, as Nikhil said rightly, there are state elections to be conducted in Maharashtra in coming December. So no political party will take the decision, because one thing removing LBT is not practicable this size because around 65,000 crores collection is there with throughout either octroi or LBT, and that much burden state government may not bear at this moment. Alternatively, there are two ways. After the December also, there will be immediately starting of the state budget and this thing. So by government may get in administration by January. So in for 3 months they may not be changed. So whatever will be changed will be there. It will be from April only, April 2014. But for the time being, if the government want to change something, what they can immediately do is, as I already told, by all means, the LBT is the better option to the octroi. What the industry is basically fearing is all about their administration and implementation. Being the LBT, the corporation is already handling the issues which are based on the transaction, something like that. One time you have to collect annual corporation tax, or they have to collect the LBT on a NAC. Whereas the second wing of administration of the state, like sales tax department, is already expert in the value-based assessment, like sales tax and profession tax, where they are years together assessing the entrepreneur and charging the taxes on it. And it is coming on the smooth line. So for a time being, they can give the administration to the sales tax department, and collection will directly go to the corporation. So corporation may not have to depend on the mercy of the state government. Only the state government can, rather instead of state, the sales tax department of the sales tax department of the state can do the assessment and may assess the correctness of the LBT payment, etc. Alternatively, that is the short-term arrangement that state can do for the satisfaction of the entrepreneurs. Alternatively, if we, as our central finance minister, agreed to implement the GST by 2015, when if we are talking about the GST, we have to remove all these small taxes. In that line, if we cannot remove an LBT, then I don't think so the GST will be that practicable. So we have to have merged the LBT either to remove it or merge it with VAT. So whenever we implement the GST, it can be easily removed.
Okay. So, in my understanding, basically there should be proper infrastructure or some kind of training should be given to the local body officials in par with the state sales tax department employees, something of that sort is what you're recommending.
Yeah, and another thing I would like to add here is, if you see any other taxes like income tax, sales tax, service tax, even excise custom, they have their own independent ministry and mechanism. Whereas LBT
Okay.
is administered through the corporation itself. So, as Nikhil wrote, it comes under the urban development department. So, corporation is already burdened with their all other activities, like they have these preparation of roads, health, education, etc. Out of that, there one another responsibility came as an LBT. So, what they can do is they can make the separate system like other taxes, so it will be more it will have a common structure with all the corporation and smoothening of the system.
Okay. So at the same time, I have one more clarification to ask from both of you. As we know, this was previously existing in the Bombay province, the octroi system.
Right.
So naturally, it was also existing in Gujarat, if I'm not wrong, till the year 2007. So
Yes.
what they did in Gujarat is they have abolished the octroi system and they increased the VAT system by some percentage. I'm not sure about the percentage. So this was some mechanism which was followed to decrease the burden of the local authorities, and also it becomes a single point valuation system. So what do you think about that system which was taken by Gujarat? Is it beneficial or it has its own flaws or something like that?
Gujarat.
Yeah.
Basically, I mean, yes, 2007, Gujarat government did, removed octroi, and what they did is they added a surcharge or they increased the VAT amount, VAT percentage by 1%. Now, even this suggestion was given by the Traders Association to the government that you can implement or you can impose an additional surcharge on VAT, Maharashtra VAT, which will cover up your LBT revenues. But the major
Okay, so
problem
the
in doing that,
suggestion was given by,
the
sorry to
Traders
interrupt.
Association, Trader
Okay,
Association.
Traders Association of Gujarat.
No, 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 no. The
Okay.
protesting, the associations which were protesting,
Okay.
Pune Traders Association, even the Bombay Traders Association. I'm not
Okay,
sure
so
I've given
similar
the exact, but
suggestion was given to the Maharashtra also.
yes, yes. Maharashtra government, when all this protest and everything discussions were going on, the Traders Association has given the suggestion to have an additional surcharge over and above the VAT rate. But what I foresee is the problem where there is a VAT dealer who is situated in the rural areas where it is outside the city limits, where it is outside the corporations, and where it is outside the LBT region. Now, because of to match up the revenues of LBT in the cities, he has to pay additional tax because of the surcharge to which were proposed to uh, replace the LBT tax. So that was the major problem, I think, to implement that surcharge. But it can be done.
Okay.
I mean, it can be done. Like there can be an addition to the VAT forms or VAT returns, where there can be an additional disclosure where you have to mention that you are registered under LBT as well, and you come under the city limits, and you have to have an additional annexure like we always do with the VAT returns. We can have an additional annexure to disclose the goods which are imported into the city limits.
Okay. So I think I'm coming to my final question if I'm not wrong. So previously at the starting of the debate, you people had told me that the local body taxation system or the octroi system is prevalent only in Maharashtra as on date. Am I correct?
Yeah. I mean,
So in that case,
LBT, no, no, LBT system might be there, but the octroi system was there only in Maharashtra.
okay.
Because I think some,
So
even in the state of Punjab, LBT is applicable,
okay,
but it is entirely on the similar grounds of VAT or their local sales tax.
okay. So how are the other corporations outside Maharashtra? They are funding themselves in case if they do not have octroi or the LBT system.
I think you can answer that.
See, basically, corporations are habituated with that level of the funds what you are getting to the either octroi or within LBT. Further, state government is committed for their proportionate grants, or you can say assistance to the corporations. And now their future expenses are, or their budgets are depend on they are considered in their budgets that they will get an tentative flow of rupees. If you can see a Pune, there octroi collection, annual octroi collection is around 1,000 crores. So they already budgeted their expenditure based on that income. So if you want to remove that, you have to give that much funding to the corporation. But in Maharashtra, state is not fully able to fund the corporations. In other state, the state may be able to fund to those expenditure of the corporation, That is why that is only applicable in Maharashtra.
Okay. So if that is the case, do you see any time in future either the LBT or the octroi abolished totally from Maharashtra?
Yeah, as I already told you, in the GST remove, if you are talking about anything about the GST, we
Hmm.
need to remove the octroi or LBT uh, without the implementation of GST, that is goods and service tax, which will going to be merged, will not be practicable unless we remove the octroi or LBT. So it has to or it needs to remove.
Okay. So in case if GST is not working out in next 2 or 3 years, even at that kind of probable situation, are there any chances of LBT or octroi being abolished from Maharashtra?
Can I add some inputs here?
Yeah, please.
Actually, see, octroi, I mean, as we all know, octroi forms or LBT forms a very important part of a budget of a local body. So the revenue for the these local bodies is you pay water charges, water tax, road tax, and everything, even the property tax, which is the source of their revenues. Now we have to explore the additional resources through which a corporation can generate its own revenue. Like for example, I'm not sure about the statistics, but for example, the property tax rates are, I think, are at very negligible level right now, and people having, I mean, the cases where people having more than one house property are increasingly, I mean, are increasing day by day. So there can be a situation where, I mean, it's just a raw suggestion that there can be a situation like an income tax where if a person is having a house property more than one, it can be treated as if it's a commercial activity or it's a commercial place, because the for the commercial place the rates are higher. The property tax rates are higher for the commercial activity or the commercial places. So that can be an additional revenue to the corporations. And even if you see at the bigger picture of the economy, it may help for regulating the property prices, because of additional tax outflow from an individual. There can be, I mean, uh, I mean, no, I'm not concluding anything on that, but there can be a situation or there can be uh, a state of mind where people will try to sell their property because of higher rate of property tax. So even if you look at the bigger picture, but I'm not sure about the statistics, but this can be a very good example to reduce the tax burden from LBT or an outright, because it will add up to the revenues of corporation only. So like this, many other alternatives are also, the corporations has to go and explore. That's what I would just suggest.
Okay. Sarang, do you think of any other alternate source of revenue to the local corporations in case if they have to do away with this LBT or octroi?
See, the basic solution I can suggest is one thing is the, as Nikhil rightly told, increase the other utility charges. So, who is the actual consumer of the corporation's benefit? Who should bear that cost? But that decision may not be politically correct, but which sounds to be technically correct but may not be politically. Alternative is that merge the same the tax with the VAT, but in increase in the VAT may not be practicable right now because only the LBT is only in the partial places in the Maharashtra. So at the moment, if you charge and increase the surcharge, or if you increase the rate of the VAT, that may affect to the areas where the LBT is not applicable. So if you want to increase the VAT, you have to consider you need to reconsider the rural areas or non-applicability of the LBT areas. The, that is the alternate increase, either increase the VAT, which is not seem to be practical, or increase the utility cost or corporation taxes on the areas of the municipal corporation, but which seems to be difficult on in a political term. So I think we are in the major mess as far as the LBT is concerned.
Okay, Sarang, before we conclude the session, is it possible for you to share any of your litigation experience with regards to local body tax? Obviously, without taking the names, a general example of how litigation has evolved in the LBT as soon as it was implemented.
Yeah.
Is it possible?
Yeah, my litigation matter I'm holding all are already the subjudice, so I have some restriction to discuss. Uh, Basically, what we are experiencing is the corporation is not in. They are not differentiating between the uh, they are not understanding the between the there can be an error and evasion. Everything cannot be seen with the same diagram. See, there can be if you move on the this thing, if you move on account based system of taxation from the transaction base, there are bound to be some errors. There are some benefits, there are some difficulties also. If you are an account base, you have to give a time to the assessees or taxpayer to understand the law, because the law is in the evaluatory position. So unless the law gets settled, you cannot treat very harshly with the taxpayer. You should understand the needs of the taxpayer, because there was very much mess as far as the LBT is concerned, and one fine day you cannot suddenly very harshly impose the law and charge the full penalty.
Okay, so I would like to thank both Nikhil and Sarang for sharing your experience on local body tax. So maybe if required, we'll conduct another session with more details and technicalities. We'll wait for the feedbacks. And for
Sure,
now,
sure.
thanks a lot, both of you, for
Thank you,
explaining
Surya.
the basics of local body tax.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Surya.
Yeah, thanks.
yeah. Thank you, Nikhil and Sarang.
Yeah.